Hey moms, we're back to our Friday discussion time. I love this. I look forward to getting to see my friends and getting to share and discuss some of the things that are important to us, some of the things that are happening in our lives or the things that we're learning about, the ways that we're growing. I love this opportunity. So I don't know exactly what we're going to talk about today. Today is another one of those weeks where I did not feel impressed to give an assignment, and no one else messaged me about an assignment, anything that they were thinking about. So we're going to explore and find out what we're going to talk about today. I think we might, Laura mentioned that she was reading in the Sally Clarkson Life Giving Home book, and there are some things in that book. I don't know if all of you know that this book is a good resource to have for moms. It's something that Marlene recommends. It's something that Marley shares in Mothers of Influence, the Facebook page there. There are beautiful quotes in that book and lots of lovely, warm ideas about family and about the kinds of things that you can do to warm your own heart, to nurture your heart, to help with your family. So when Laura has a time that she is able to share, then we'll let you pop on and share what you would like to from that book, Laura. But for now, I can't
Give me
tell.
a few minutes. I gotta
Yeah, no worries. That's kind of what I was gauging. Baby in arms usually means we don't have the freedom to talk and read from books. But I think Lindsay might have grabbed her copy too. So
I did. And I'm realizing that this would be a great resource for my talk this Sunday too, because I'm supposed to be talking on like the new year and all that. So the January, I love this book because she separates it into like months. So you just read January's for January. You don't have to
and
read
that's
the
all you
whole
have
book.
to think about, right?
And that's all you have to think about. And it's not very long. And it's just like a nice little thing to like, you read it and it changes the way you do things in your home for that month. It's kind of nice.
So what are you kind of looking at there that jumped out at you as ooh, I need to read this?
I don't know, the very first page of the January one says the gift of a new year. And I love this because it just says, this picture has become a paradigm for all of my Januaries. A new beginning, a new year with no mistakes in it. No mistakes in it yet. Thank you, Anne of Green Gables. And I'm reading Anne of Green Gables with Sarah right now too. So I love that. That's come up a lot this January, people talking about that part. 365 days ahead with all sorts of possibilities and a variety of ways to invest the days. To have a new start every year is a gift to me, as I always want to do things better, clear out the old, bring in the new. January gives me that new start, the possibility of wiping the slate clean and starting all over again with a new box of crayons. I love it.
That would be a fun gift to give yourself every January. A new box of crayons, just to remember. Any thoughts about that? Anybody want to share their thoughts about those things? A new year. Oh, and Lindsay Watkins has got her copy too.
It's not used. I just pulled it out of the thing and I was like, oh, I've had this for how long when did I buy this, Lindsay? A long time ago?
I don't know. Yeah.
It was funny because I was just having the same conversation with my kids the other day about, when our birthdays come up, I'm like, that's a whole new chapter of your life. What? In a minute. Sorry. Sorry. Not yet.
I miss your kids. I'm like, I want to see them. Hi, guys.
One of them's not even dressed yet, and it's noon.
How fun.
Pajama day. It's 21 degrees. Nobody wants to get dressed.
No.
Anyway, we were talking about just how each year, your birthday comes up, that's a whole new chapter of your life. And they were like, what? A chapter? I'm like, think about your life in chapters. And they're like, whoa, you're on chapter 40. And I'm like, but think about if your life was a book, what do you want to read? If, is this chapter going to be exciting? And they're like, oh, I need to do some pretty cool stuff this year. I really want this chapter to be exciting. And I thought that was such a fun paradigm shift for them, just to be like, oh, I don't want chapter 10 just to be, oh, I stayed in my pajamas every day until noon and I watched TV all day, because that's a really boring chapter, you know? So it was fun to hear what they were brainstorming about, stuff they wanted to do in this chapter. So I'm still brainstorming what to do in chapter 40.
I love that though. I think that's a really fun way to look at it. I really like that. And I'm on like 50, I don't know, 8. I'm working on my 58th chapter, something like that. That sounds like a fun way to approach it though. I love it. Okay, Laura, you are sitting down. It looks like you might be able to share, so we're going to turn it over to you.
So, Lindsay, I'm with you. I've had it for a while, and when I was looking at the resources under the Mothers of Influence, I saw it and I thought, oh, it's January. Maybe this is a good time to pull it out and start with that. So I just skimmed it this morning, and it's an easy read. But there was one thing that I read that I loved, and I thought I should underline it, and I'm trying to find it, and I'm having a hard time finding it. But she talks about like how they were looking to build a home, like their dream home. And just like a home needs a blueprint, like our homes need a blueprint. Like we need to have a plan. We need to know where we're going so that we're not wasting our time, or like Lindsay was saying, having that year be wasted. What are we going to do with this chapter of our life? I will share this. So she gives like some questions to ponder. And she said, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. And that's in Psalms 127:1. And she asks us, God tells us first to seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. How does this apply to the way you build your home? How are you investing in the word of God in your home? How are you engaging in faith and righteousness? And I loved that. I love that so much. So I'm going to keep trying to find that quote, but that's basically, she talks to, she gives advice on how stuff can quickly cause a sense of disorder in our home, and information, and how important it is to create. Oh, I love that word. I think Linnell made that word exciting for me when she talked about a couple of weeks ago, like how we can create. We have the gift of creating, and we can create not just like decorating our home, but we can create moments with our children that are important. And it's our effort that we put into creating those moments that are that's a neat thing. Anyway, she says we can create spaces of calm and restoration. I like that. It's really good read, quick read. It's a good read. Go find it.
And you can get it on Audible, or not Audible, on your Kindle. If you have Amazon Prime, you can download the free Kindle reader. And I got mine that way. And so I have mine on my little Kindle reader. Lindsay, were you going to share something else on that?
When she talked about creating moments, I just thought of Lindsay Watkins and watching her in her homeschool journey. And she creates the most amazing moments for her kids. Like, let's plan a trip to wherever. Like, I just love watching her realize that that's what it's about, is creating memories. And yeah, I think she's done a really good job at that. But I don't know. And then I just came upon a page in here, it talks about planning for fun, and like planning to do those fun things and creating those memories and those moments for our families.
I love so many things about it. I was looking at it, and just the idea of looking at your year. I mean, yeah, looking at the beginning of the year, and not as this, okay, I need to add all the things, try to do all the things this year that I didn't do last year, or, none of that kind of weight. But it was this time to reflect. And a couple of the questions stood out to me that she asks, am I doing something now that doesn't need to be done? So you can ask that of yourself, and maybe you can take some things off your list. She said, asks what daily and weekly rituals will bring pleasure and mark important areas in which I can invest my moments. And I love that too. What kinds of things are you going to invest your moments doing? Isn't that a nice way to think about that? I love that. And then Jen shared she's checking out the book from Libby. So that's another option for us too. Okay, other thoughts from this book. What a good resource for today's discussion. I love this.
One more resource outside of this book. Well,
Sure.
that how she said the home is the garden of your life. I love that. And I thought, oh, how fitting for the rotation for January, because it's all about gardening. And then Brooke Snow, I know we've talked a lot about her. She's releasing a whole bunch of podcasts this week that it's called The Law of Creation, and how to see, say, feel, do, and then become, and like how to create that. And so go listen to those podcasts and do them in order. And then she has a free download on this this course that she's doing. So I've loved the podcast because it's just, are you seeing it? Are you saying it? Are you feeling it? And she goes, all of that part is spiritual before you even get to the do part, you know? And so see what kind of life you want to create, what kind of garden you want. And then saying it, obviously, is just saying what you wanted to do with it, letting it be out there so other people can then help you. Because if you don't say what you're going to do, no one else knows what your intentions are. It's like putting on your blinker when you're driving. And so it's just, and then having that feeling and seeing what it creates inside of you. And then progressing through with the action part. So I love that. And I love that you can do all of that part just within yourself and creating that part in your home as well.
Just waiting so somebody else can jump in. I'm trying to not talk so much. I really misquoted. Home is the garden of your life. But Lindsay, thanks for sharing that quote. It is beautiful. Home is the garden of your life. And if you think about that and you think about what it is that you're growing. Oh, yeah. Okay. Lindsay said that's the Law of Creation series. And then the free mini book from Brooke Snow. I love that. I put something in my notes this morning. I ran across it. It was talking about gardening. I was watching one of the garden videos under the gardening section, and it was this woman talking about their garden that they built. They bought the home next door. They lived in New England and bought the home next door because the backyard of the home next door it wasn't very big, but it received sunlight all day long. And they took that backyard and they planned and planted a cottage garden back there. And it showed the before, and then it showed the 10 years later. 10 years is not that long. You know, when I look back at 10-year increments in my life, it's gone by pretty fast. And this garden is beautiful. It's so pretty. It's just, the perfect thing that you imagine, it's just gorgeous. But in the very beginning, as she was talking about it, she said that they got advice from critics, about what not to do, things like that. And she said, it's best to keep the critics at bay when you're starting a new garden. And I really like that quote. I was thinking about it in terms of us with our children, because I had a lot of experience with that, lots of critics, but also us in nurturing our own hearts, this learning journey that we're going on. It's best to keep the critics at bay when you're starting a new garden. So if you do have some of those moments, or you do have some of those critics that want to help you, remember, you can just, even if you can't make them go away, you can just kind of set them aside, set their comments aside. But it was interesting because a little bit later on, they did a thing and it was a mistake and it didn't go well. And she was saying, where were the critics then? When we actually were doing something that wasn't quite right and that, was doomed to failure. And, but then they took that experience and they recovered from it. They made some changes and reused the material somewhere else. And anyway, so Lindsay adds, being mindful that we aren't the critics of our children and the garden they are starting. Oh, that's really good. That's really, really good, Lindsay. I love that. Okay, other thoughts there, Linnell?
I've had some critics who are not me, but I'm also very critical of myself sometimes. And so I think that's good application for my own thoughts and my own criticisms for when I'm trying to do something, because that can really get me down. And I wanted to share a quote that I really liked from The Secret Garden. We finished reading it last night as a bedtime story, and everyone was sad that it was over. But it was a good experience because I was reading it at bedtime. That's something I've been working on. And so having a more peaceful bedtime, this has helped to create that. And mine is in Spanish, so I'm going to be translating it on the fly. If someone has a copy and wants to read it for me in English, that would be good too. But I'll just start, and if anyone wants to read it after, like word for word, that'd be good. That would be good. It's In the Garden, chapter 27. One of the most extraordinary discoveries of this century has been that our thoughts are as powerful as electric batteries, as good as the light, and as dangerous as poison. If we allow one sad or bad thought to enter our mind, it's as risky as allowing a virus to take over our body. If we let it stay, it's possible that we can't ever get rid of it. And so just recently, like a couple of nights ago, we had an experience with my son who was sick in the middle of the night with a viral infection. And I just think about the power of a virus, how it can take over our body and how it can multiply. And I have found myself in those situations, definitely where my thoughts are like poison and where they just get me into a downward spiral. And it's so hard to get out of it and to get rid of it. And so even just allowing a tiny sad or bad or negative thought to enter can be so dangerous for me.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really good. We have talked multiple times here about negative thoughts. And then in a message just earlier this morning, one of the Marco Polos from Haley, she just said, I feel like Satan's been on my back the last couple of days. And that was a new phrase. But yeah, we know about that negativity and trying to just push that out, making sure we're being open for positivity, nurturing, and helping things to grow. Hello, Cadence. It's good to see you. We miss you when you're not here. It's like a family, and when there are faces that you know and love and they're not there, you miss them. And it's so fun when you get to see them again. So I love this. We really do have to meet up at some point. That's got to happen. We've got to do one of those somehow, some magical way we're going to get together. Wouldn't that be so much fun to actually be in person, talking and sharing and loving and giving all the hugs you want to give and just sitting with the people, or not hugging if you're not a hugger. Like, it's all good. I'm kind of medium. There's a thing where I think I've found the middle ground. I'm not swinging too far either way on hugging. I think I've found the sweet spot. I have a touch quota. Oh, there you go. Surprise, surprise. You're so cute, Lindsay. Oh, I love it. Okay. All right. I love this. This is a good discussion. These are good things. Oh, Michelle, I'm glad you're back. Lovely, lovely. Okay, we're missing our other Melissa too, so we'll have to make a connection there and see what's up. But ladies, if you know some of the friends and ladies that aren't here today, we don't expect people to be here every time. We can't do that. We're moms. We do every Friday so that there's always an opportunity to pop on when you can. But if you're missing somebody, if you notice that, reach out, because the connections that are made in between are really good and important too. We need that. We need to make sure we get our oxytocin fix, right? Who knows about that and can share about that just a little bit? Because I think that was really interesting to me to learn about oxytocin and how that is has a connection to what we do here every Friday. Anybody want to talk about that? Just for a little. I mean, I know the author of that is far away from her phone, but there are a couple others of us who know about it, probably know enough to share. Come on, friends.
I don't know much about it, but I do know I was talking with Laura and Lori this week, and I was like, oh, this just makes me so happy. And like this just fills my cup like all week just to have like a conversation with them. And then that's when they shared with me the study that they had just learned from somebody else. I don't remember.
Linnell,
But yeah, is it Linnell? And yeah, just how for women talking to other women or just talking in general, oxytocin is released in our brains and it makes us happy.
Yeah, I love that. And I think Melissa was going to share something. Melissa, are you able to come back? Thank you, Lindsay. And that I loved learning about that. Okay, Melissa.
So oxytocin is the cuddle hormone, but it's connected. It comes whenever you make a connection, a positive, safe, just a minute, but connection. And when it's paired with serotonin in a healthy way, which comes from positive rewards, but not in a addictive or gaming, like playing board games or video games or board games or card games or gardening with somebody, like an activity that you do with someone to release both the serotonin, the oxytocin, and a healthy diet with serotonin too. Sorry. That is one of the best offenders for reducing addiction in childhood brains.
That's fascinating. Wow, that's really interesting, Melissa.
Say that one more time. I didn't catch the last
Yeah.
part.
So dopamine's released. It's the reward center. So video gaming and addiction is a dopamine release. So that's what our kids get right now when they see screens all the time, is this dopamine trigger. Even Sesame Street, which is, like good TV, has increased its visual receptions so much since the 60s that Sesame Street is addictive to kids, essentially, to their brains. And so you want to get the reward centers going for your children while they're connecting with you. So you want to have a positive activity where they feel rewarded while connecting with you, so that they connect that positive experience and that reward with the oxytocin. It will reduce the chance of an addictive brain cycle happening.
That is really interesting, Melissa, and I love that. I love that. And the thing about Sesame Street that she was sharing, it has a lot to do with how quickly things change on the screen, how fast they change what it is that you're receiving. And so, and that's what's not great about that. I don't know if there are other things about that, Melissa. I know that was when my kids were little, it was like Sesame Street versus Mr. Rogers, something where there's something that's stationary on the screen, someone that's talking to you and connecting with you, rather than these things that would increase short attention spans.
Yeah, in the 60s, Sesame Street's intro video had like 6 to 12 seconds on each shot that they would do. And now it's like 1 to 3 seconds. It changes. So your kids are getting this visual input constantly, just like bombarding them. And that's what scrolling does on your phone. Every second you get like 3 or 4 inputs as you're scrolling on social media. And so, and video gaming does the same thing. They have a very addictive reward cycle in video games. And so that is just watching Sesame Street, the way they've changed just their intro video affects children's brain development just because of how quickly they're getting input.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. And look what's happening to us as adults too. You know, we have everything that we want. We used to watch, you know, a video, and we would watch a video that would be 30 minutes long, and we would learn things. And then it's just been shrinking. And now we do, you know, it's TikToks, you know, just short. And I think as adults, we also want to lengthen the time that we spend doing an activity. We need that too. Otherwise we start shortening our own attention spans. Do you find that? Like you go look at a video and you're like, oh, it's 2.5 minutes. That's too long. And I think, no, what is wrong with you? Don't do that. You can't do that. You know, just we need to change that. Go, Melissa.
Yeah. And so it's not just screens necessarily that's the problem. It's just it's that kids aren't bored anymore. It's that we're not bored anymore.
Yeah.
It's all of that input. It's having the downtime to connect. We need so much input now that we don't take the time to connect because it's too much work. It's too much energy or whatnot. But taking the time to not have that input and connect is very important for brain and neurotransmitters.
That's so good that you know all of that. I love that, and that you can share that with us. There's the most recent podcast from Jenny, our friend Jenny over at 1,000 Hours Outside, is that it's okay for kids to be bored, or something like that. I think that's what it was titled. Yeah, it's okay for kids to be bored, and she talks about that. So there are 2 podcasts up this week, and it's one of them, the author, Dr. Nicholas Kardaras. Oh, she shares about him. His book, Glow Kids. That's one of the books that on her list of favorites. And so she's talking about him. There's a couple of quotes here. She says, if you really want a child to thrive and blossom, lose the screens for the first few years of their lives. During those key developmental periods, let them engage in creative play. Let them explore their surroundings and allow them opportunities to experience nature, either at a park or in the real deal. There's more, but she said, let them experience boredom. There is nothing healthier for a child or for us than to learn how to use your own interior resources to work through the challenges of being bored. This then acts as the fertile ground for developing the powers of observation, cultivating patience, and developing an active imagination, the most developmentally and neurosynaptically important skill that they can learn. Let them live without the glow. Oh, that's why his book. Okay. While they're kids. Oh, I just clicked on that. And they'll have plenty of time later on to deal with screens. There also is another. Sorry, we're doing this little tangent just for a sec. There's an account. Oh, am I gonna? Do I still have it up? There's an account on Instagram that's like, wait till they're 8 or something like that. Do any of you know about that? Or wait until 8? I don't know. I'll find it and I'll share it with you guys later. But it's saying, wait,
Grade,
what?
8th grade.
Yeah, 8th grade until they have until you give them a phone. And longer, they say 16 plus if you can, so that they're driving before they are using screens, which I can see lots of reasons why that would be a good thing.
I just finished reading that book, Barefoot and Balanced. I cannot remember the author's name. She runs the Timber Nook schools that are just outdoor.
Yeah.
And she said the kids would come over, and she says it would take sometimes up to 3 weeks before these kids would actively engage in any of the outdoor activities. She said one little 6-year-old would come up to her every 5 minutes and go, okay, what's next on the schedule? And she goes, this is the schedule. We're just playing. And she said this little girl went and sat on a stump for 6 hours because no one was scheduling what she was supposed to do.
Wow.
And it was so sad because I'm like, you just wasted 6 hours doing nothing when you could have been playing. But because she wasn't being told what to do or how to play or being entertained. She didn't know what, she just sat there. And it was so sad to read that because, yeah, they don't know how to be bored. They always have to be entertained.
Wow.
I just had a thought. Excuse my voice. I'm all a little bit sick still. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So I think like with TV, I don't think is as damaging as having a phone for some reason. And maybe that's just my own experience, but like my kids never really got a tablet or a phone to play with. Like, I wouldn't ever be like, "Here, take this." And but we did watch TV, and we did watch TV. I tried not to watch a lot of kids, but like sometimes when I was cooking dinner or when I was pregnant and really tired and it was nap time for a little one, I was like, I'm gonna go take a nap with the baby, and you can watch TV if you sit here and be good. Maybe that's typical, but that's what I did. Anyways, and so they did have TV. But then I realized too, when my kids are a little bit older, I remember I think it was my fifth baby. And I was like couldn't handle very much after I had him. And so sometimes I just turn on the TV because I'm like, I just need to survive and you need to survive. So let's just stare at the TV for a while. And anyways, my kids were really, we sort of got in that habit because that's what I was doing for a while. And so then I started noticing that they would sit there and watch TV for a while. And then one or two of them would be like, oh, we're so bored. This is boring. Let's go outside. And I don't know like what I did or how that happened exactly, but it was like they just were tired of watching TV. And so they wanted to go outside and play. And I think maybe part of it was just that, like when they were really little, we did watch TV, but it was limited and they didn't have other screens. And we tried to spend a lot of time outside. So I don't think you should beat yourself up too much if you do watch TV or do those sorts of things, or even if you use a screen sometimes. But I feel like it's so important to like limit it as much as you can, because I think it really makes a big difference in the long term how they, like you say, like they're like are able to actually go and engage in things outside in nature, and just enjoy that instead of just needing entertainment all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you learn how, how much they get from being outside in nature and how much you get from that, once you experience that, then you realize what an incredible resource that is. And I am still amazed that Jenny, the woman who promotes 1,000 hours outside, that she still gets so many hours outside with how busy she is, all the children she has, all the things that she has going on. But that time outside is a priority for them, and the benefits for your children, that's so incredible. But I think it's just good to know. I think it's good to know this stuff so that then you can make decisions that work for your family and you can find the balance for your family. And that's what's important too, is remember yours isn't going to look like anybody else's. You take this information that you learn and then you figure out how that works for you. And I think that's important to remember. Okay, other thoughts, other things?
I have one more. Sorry, I'm chatting a lot today.
No, it's great.
In the Catch the Vision Volume 1,
Huh?
on page 230, it's the garden. I never even thought about this. It says, in the beginning, it was a garden, a wonderful, beautiful garden where first man and woman were placed. He didn't put them in a home. He put them in a garden. And then it goes on to say, everything within garden is intended to gladden the heart and offer pure joy. So he put them out there. Like I said, he didn't give them this nice fancy house and said, okay, here you go. Do what you're going to do. He put them out there where he's like, I want you to enjoy what I've created.
Huh.
And I've never thought about that until now. I was like, that's funny that's just where it started, was
Right.
outside in nature.
Right. I have never ever thought of that. And somehow I probably had that marked in my book, but it kind of in and out. But that's beautiful, Lindsay. I'm so glad you shared that. Wow. So we have a garden right out there. And it's actually really quite beautiful. We probably should spend more time out there. But how wonderful that that is a true principle that we look at, regularly, but sometimes those don't quite get into our hearts until we're ready for that. So I love that, and how appropriate that it's January, and at least on the rotation schedule, if that's any part of your life or your awareness, gardening is on there, like Lindsay said earlier. I love that. And it is a good time to be thinking about that. If any of you ladies are wanting to start a garden, add a garden, have that be part of your life, that is a good excuse for getting outside with your kids and for sending your kids out there. There's so many beautiful, amazing, wonderful things that you can do with a garden. And by having that available for you, for your own heart, and for your family. Family work, we talked about that last week. So many blessings there. Okay, other thoughts? I love that, Lindsay. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to look that up. So again, that's in the Reference Library, Volume 1, page 230. Right? Do I remember that? Okay. Okay, mamas, other thoughts? I brought all these little books with me. I brought this one, which I love. It's just little tiny quotes from Marjorie Pay Hinckley, and it's just positive and sweet and uplifting. And some days, if that's my reading, that counts, and it's like seriously small, like, just one. Some of them are, I'm trying to find, yeah, like that. Just a tiny little positive, uplifting message that just, helps me. Because when you're moms and you're busy, that sometimes it's hard to find that time to have time to read, pleasure reading kind of things. But it really is important to do that. In that volume 1, near the beginning, as you're studying, going through the introduction course, it talks about, it's a quote, and I can't remember who it's from. It's from a famous author, but it's where she gets the idea where you read something and you look at a beautiful piece of art, you listen to a beautiful piece of music, you read some poetry or recite a poem, and you spend some time out in nature. If that is all you do, like if you really could feed and clothe your children, keep your house reasonably clean, make sure your kids are clothed, and then you did those 5 things, you would be so much better off than most of the entire world. You would be spending time doing things that nurture your heart. You know how much better your life goes. You know how much better your relationship is with your spouse, with your children, when you are in a good place. So I don't know why it is that we allow the neglect of ourselves, our own hearts. I do. That's kind of what I think the most important message I want to give is for moms to make that time, to understand how vital that time is, and that you're not being selfish by taking time for yourself in that way. And I think sometimes it's just I don't know why it's so hard. Why is it so hard for us to do that? Why don't we do that? We see the things right in front of us, I guess, those obvious immediate needs. When you're like where Cadence is, just look at the picture, right? She's very busy just right where she is, today. She's got a little one, and there's just stuff that goes along with that in your life. Or Laura, is off screen, and probably tending to children. that's just such a busy time. I remember that. It's not that I don't remember that. I remember that, and I remember that sometimes you can feel overwhelmed. So how do you, when you're in the middle of that and that's your focus and those are your feelings, how do you change and realize and get to the point where you can start finding or making it a priority to nurture your own heart? How do you do that? How do you get from the one place to the other? I'm going to read Lindsay's message here while you guys figure out whose turn it is to answer that question. We are the soil. If we do not tend to it, then how are we supposed to grow beautiful things for others to enjoy? Yeah. But when you're in that, when you're in the middle of that, how do you make that transition? Melissa.
I saw a post, I don't know what it was, maybe it was on one of the Well-Educated Heart pages or whatnot, but somebody was saying if self-care looks like one big thing for you, it's like playing the guitar is my self-care. You're doing it wrong, because what if you have hand surgery? Then your self-care is out the window. But if you have like a pie chart of self-care and you have 12 slices in it, and you try to do those 12 every day just for a few minutes, then if you're, have hand surgery, you can still have self-care, you can still grow and develop and create. And so I'm very much an all or nothing kind of person naturally. And so I have a hard time starting my projects because I feel like I need to sit down and spend a full hour on them. And I just don't have that right now. So I don't get a lot done. And so in the last week or two, I've been trying to figure out what bite-sized self-care or bite-sized creation or nurturing looks like. And it looks like my goal is to read 1 to 2 pages a day. Not, a chapter or a book like I like to do. And it's to make sure I read at least 1 scripture a day. And it's making sure I'm at least drinking water, a couple times a day, and stopping and making sure I do that. And it's not making my favorite food, but maybe having a bite of a treat that I like. And so I've been trying to do bite-size nurturing instead of what comes more naturally. And in the process, I'm nurturing myself so much more. I'm taking less time than I normally would try to spend, but I'm doing more nurturing, which has been new for me.
I love this, Melissa. I love this. So ladies, I want you to think, and I want to try to see if we can get just a quick answer from a few of you. What would, just if you think, okay, what's a way that I could bite-size nurture my heart on a daily basis? What's just a little thing that I love to do that I could do in a tiny little snippet, of time? Or go ahead, Melissa, you're going to share something.
Well, yeah, in that process, I grew up dancing. I would spend 4 to 7 hours a day dancing sometimes. I haven't danced in years because I can't get the time to, go to a studio and dance because I have my littles. And that's okay. That's the phase I'm in. But we've had like 6 dance parties this week. And we throw on a song and dance and then get back to whatever we were doing. And so just in this process, I'm doing more of what I love instead of less.
I love it. And going back to Sally Clarkson, before you answer this question, what Lindsay said is so good. Lindsay Watkins over here in the comments. Instead of saying, I don't have time, look at the list of all the things and instead ask yourself, is this a priority? And that's kind of what that January message is about, is kind of reflecting and looking at and figuring out what you want your life to look like this year, and being able to make some choices there. So if you think about what's a tiny thing that you could do every day that would nurture your heart?
I was gonna add something. I think like when you're trying to nurture your heart, just like you're trying to like feed your body, if you're just giving yourself junk all the time, and how much do we fill up our time with junk, like Facebook or
Yeah.
other stuff, but that we need to be focusing on nutrient dense stuff that we're taking in, right? So whatever that might be, whatever the things that we can eliminate that we're wasting time on that are like, I think, twaddle, the word, you know, it's fluff and it's just not sustaining, just like eating junk food. It's just make my hunger go away a little bit. But so I don't know. And I feel like all the things in Well Educated Heart are those all good, you know, and so that was a question.
Thank you. Oh, what do we have here? Okay, ladies, the comments here. Oh, Linnell, this is beautiful. And you shared the whole thing with us. Okay, well, let's go to this in a minute. There's so many things, ladies. We're at the end here or approaching the end of our time together. There's so many things. We've been having some amazing discussions this week on Marco Polo, from a devotional that who shared that originally? Linnell. Okay. And it's Jared Halverson, and it's a fireside that was done in Utah, this East Highland Steak in Utah. It's a YouTube fireside. Let's see if we can find that resource. Linnell's probably doing that, and share that. This fireside was powerful. It affected us so much and has given us so much to reflect on and talk about and think about. And it kind of goes with what we're talking about here, but it's so much that we couldn't possibly even begin a discussion about it. But let's say we share it, and I'll share it on the Teach Our Own Hearts page as well. Maybe we could watch it and maybe we'll talk about it next week. I think that might be a really good thing. Thank you, Linnell. You're so good. But this idea of what do you, we've got to nurture our hearts. We've got to focus on Christ first. That's got to be the thing that our faith is in. Faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. That is key. That's key. And you go from there to, okay, so today, and I think so much of it has to do with our morning prayer and asking Heavenly Father, okay, so here's my day that I kind of have outlined, and here are the things that, maybe the have to's, like appointments or something, if you feel, if there's stuff like that, or things that, that are, that you feel are top on your list, but then go over that list with Heavenly Father. If any of you have, Laura mentioned this resource the other day, but if any of you have done any of the church's self-reliance courses, they start with this wonderful video of this woman, and she talks about her day, and she makes a list of the things that she wants to accomplish, and then she takes that list to Heavenly Father and prays over the list and finds out what the priorities are for that day, what He would like her to do for that day, and how to do that. And then she then she uses what she got from Him to determine, okay, this is what I do today. And we've talked about this before, and I've shared with you that that's something, I do something similar. And that, I think that formula offers us at least the best opportunity for success. Now, we still have our agency, and we can decide to remember what it was we received as answers to our prayer that morning, or get completely distracted and, go off track. But we at least have the opportunity to be led and guided and directed by the Spirit throughout our day, to help us to have a successful day, to help us do the things that are most important in that day, to reach out to whomever needs to be reached out to for that day, to do whatever thing is going to nurture us for that day. And I think that's good. I think that's important. But you need to not, don't ignore the whisperings you receive that are talking about the things you do for you. I think that those things might go to the top of the list, because once you've done that, kind of put on your oxygen mask, right? Then you're better equipped to do the other things that are on your list. So I think women, I think we have a tendency to, if we were to receive an answer that said, for us to do something beautiful, something warm and fuzzy, we might think, well, no, because I've got to do all these other things. And so we might not even try to attend to that thing for ourselves. Does that make sense to you? Do you understand? Sometimes we just don't even accept that input. We just, no, we don't have time. Anyway, so I really want you to try to be open to the idea of nurturing yourself. What does that look like? Find a way to do that a little bit every day so that you are open to these things and open to this kind of learning and growing and adding to yourself. Okay, so now I'm going back to you. There's a lot of stuff in the chat. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys to go through that and figure out or share with us what those things are and why these things are important. So Linnell or Lindsay, any of you to talk about what you put over there.
I put the link from, oh, let me check his name real fast. Sorry. I should have done that before.
That's all right.
It was by Stephen W. Owen. He was the Young Men's president before. So this is from a general conference, and I can't remember which one it was. Oh, it's October 2019. And this is the talk where he was talking about the herd of deer. He said that Boyd K. Packer had shared this about a herd of deer who, it was a really cold winter and there wasn't a lot of food about. And so this community was really worried about this herd of deer not surviving the winter. And so they had put out hay for the deer. And so the deer, instead of looking for food that would nourish them, they just came to the hay and they were eating that, and they ended up dying anyway because they were just eating something to fill them, but it wasn't nourishing them. And so, and it's funny because I was listening to the, you guys remember Megan North?
Mm-hmm.
She just shared on, she has a podcast now, and she just shared that this week about that talk, and that it just reminded me of that, of just, are we filling ourselves or are we nourishing ourselves? So that's just the talk that she mentioned.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. The rest of you, Lindsay, Linnell.
I just put the link into the video you're talking about from the self-reliance classes.
Okay, good.
About the woman who, and yeah, Laura mentioned it this week, the woman who creates her to-do list and then prays about it and then prioritizes it, and then at the end of the day she reports. But I've thought a lot about it, and I think we need, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. How do I get rid of it? Anyway, but I think for me it's so easy just to be like, okay, I need to do laundry, I need to do like all of these tedious, boring tasks. Like you said, we need to put in there like something for ourselves, something to nurture our hearts, and actually write that on the to-do list and our goals for the year and the goals that we're working on, and to put those on there and not just the like pressing matters that have to be done. Anyway, the video is really good.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Linnell.
I was adding to the discussion with Melissa. It's a poem, Little by Little, page 62 in this poetry book. You can read it on your own.
Thank you. You guys are wonderful. I do want to have a couple of you just share an idea, just as motivation, inspiration, something for somebody else here or for yourself, just to remind yourself, oh, I should do this thing. I love this. I could set a timer. I could spend a few minutes doing this thing that I love. What are just throw out a few suggestions of something like that you could do for you. And I might call on somebody if you don't, if no one starts talking. That's like a threat. That's not a threat. That was just just a heads up. Okay.
I just want to add, I was just watching a video by Ben Hardy this last week with my son. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's like a mindset guru kind of, but he's LDS. And he was talking about how he quotes tons and tons of people with their, awesome books and whatever on the topic. But he says to choose like 3 main priorities. Like for him, it's his family is one priority, another is getting books and improving his quality and his output and stuff, and then another one is his financial picture. But choosing like 3 main priorities, and then each day choosing 3 things that you're going to move forward in some of those areas. Just you're going to do other things. You're going to do laundry. You're going to go to the grocery store, but to choose 3 things that day that will make a difference moving towards your priorities. And then each week, looking back at what you did, and also choosing 3 main areas or 3 main things they're going to do during the week to make progress. So that can kind of be included in our self-care. Self-care is one of your focuses, to kind of develop that and focus on that. Just choose progress.
Awesome. Thank you, Melanie. Appreciate that. Cadence. I love that. And I want you to, can you talk for a minute? Just share that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Melanie. I appreciate that tip though. That's really good. I put that name in there too. Okay, go ahead, Cadence. Sorry.
Yeah, this week, it's been really great to go outside. We were trying to get more hours because we decided to do the 1,000 hours outside thing and keep track. So I printed the small page that has the first 100 hours. So, but we're really excited because we're filling in bubbles quickly, and it's just really motivating to just do stuff. And because we were outside so much, going to parks, doing all these things, I just noticed that I felt so much better, and I wasn't even doing anything on my checklist. I wasn't doing necessarily something for me, but that was something for me by getting outside, and it didn't cost anything. And it made my kids happy too. That's the side here.
Yeah, what if that was the only thing you did, was you just made sure you got outside every day?
Yeah, it's good, especially if it's, if you can get the more time, the better. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. And that's hard for me. Once I'm out there, I won't come back in, but just getting out the door, I don't do it. I look out and I go, oh yeah, okay. And I just don't go out there. And
I could live inside forever.
Yes.
I forget about it.
Yeah.
It exists.
Yeah, that's so me. And then you get me out there, and my kid's like, Mom, seriously, you've been out here like for 4.5 hours. You need to come in. I know. I just need to finish this. Mom, seriously. Okay, and Linnell put, I love to bake a fun treat. That's awesome. That's what my Kate does. I love that. That's fun to have something that you do that makes you feel happy. Okay, so look for those things. Look for ways. Look for just a little something that you love. And think about these resources that we've talked about, all the different things that we've shared. Melanie just shared with us that Ben Hardy, we talked about the Small Seed app and meditation, Lindsay put it in the side note, and that is so good. So good. Megan Norp's new podcast, these articles that we've shared. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll take a moment and I'll share these resources on the Teach Your Own Hearts page there. And I guess I probably should do the email, but I don't know, ladies. It's just not happening. But there are really good resources here in the chat. So if you guys, what I'm going to say is, if any of these really stand out to you, please save them and share them. Save them and share them with yourself. Yeah, save them so that you have them for yourself, in case I don't get to sharing them with you. That's what I mean to say. And then let's go ahead and turn to Linnell. I'm sorry it went a little bit over today, ladies, but we'll turn to Linnell so she can do our wrap up. And then I will make sure you look at that one, the YouTube link that Linnell put in there. For those of you who aren't on social media right now, At the 10:54 mark, Linnell shared a link to that YouTube video. It's really good. Or if you miss it and you want it, message me and I'll make sure you get it. And I think we might talk about that a little next week or whatever else comes up. But find the things that make you feel happy. It really is a good thing to feel happy, to feel like you can do it. You can get through it. You can do it. It's going to be okay. I think that's important. Okay, Linnell, we'll turn it over to you.
I have a quote I want to share by Dieter F. Uchtdorf. And it says, as our days go, so go our lives. One author put it this way: a day is like a whole life. You start out doing one thing, but end up doing something else. Plan to run an errand, but never get there. And at the end of your life, your whole existence has that same haphazard quality too. Your whole life has the same shape as a single day. Do you want to change the shape of your life? Change the shape of your day. Do you want to change your day? Change this hour. Change what you think, feel, and do at this very moment. A small rudder can steer a large ship. Small bricks can become magnificent mansions. Small seeds can become towering sequoias. Minutes and hours well spent are the building blocks of a life well lived. They can inspire goodness, lift us from the captivity of imperfections, and lead us upward to the redemptive path of forgiveness and sanctification. So today in the last hour, we talked a lot about things we can do in the home, things we can do for ourselves, things we can do to be better, things we can do to enjoy our time and take care of ourselves and nurture our hearts. We talked about a lot of different things, but I think all of them come down to, how do you spend your time? How do you spend this minute? How do you spend these hours? And eventually that will be how you end up spending your life. And if you want to have a good life, a good home, a good testimony, a good family, a good attitude, anything, it all starts with what you do in this very moment.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful. And I love that there's some personal connections going on over in the chat group. I love it. Well, this is so important, my friends, to get together, to share these thoughts with one another, just to see each other's faces and feel motivated, feel like, okay, I could probably do another week. I could probably make that happen. I love it. And Linnell shared over here what she just read. So thank you for putting that in there. I loved that. That was in it from one of the talks, right? From a conference talk. Yeah, I loved that. That's so good. And that's the thing, by small and simple things, right? By small and simple things. Consider putting that somewhere where you can see it, so you can remember that great things happen from just our tiny little efforts. All right, my friends, have a beautiful, wonderful weekend. Have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you and talking with you again next week.